Hello. Today I'm going to be swinging it slightly, but I wrote down some things that I wanted to talk about, and one like stuck out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, you got to make a video right now, which I ended up not doing. So hopefully I can get this all out the way that I want to. So, what I have written down is it's bad because God says it is, which might end up being the title of this video. Because I was understanding, it was being put in plain language to me, a dilemma that we have. And just thinking of just the simple things that get us hemmed up in this world. And a lot of people, a lot of Christians, we wrestle, we don't know what's God, what's the devil. People have questions about, well, can this happen to Christians, and can a Christian get possessed by a demon, and all of this stuff. And sometimes we get like, I don't know, for me, like sometimes I get like this blank slate because I'm like, wait, do I know the answer to that? And I find myself blanking on these things, and feeling like I need to go to scripture. And I'm like, no, it's something simpler than that. I don't need to go find the scripture. It's something like, it's a principle, it's a rule. It's, yes, I could probably find it in scripture, but it's the scripture is pointing to the rule. And I think I just realized, I don't know, I think that the spirit was talking to me and he was just explaining, and I was like, oh yeah. Here's the problem. We get caught up on the outward fleshly definition of things. And we mix it in with the spiritual, with what we understand, what God shows us is going on spiritually. So you might have a conversation about some sin that you think is bad. Something like tattoos. I just recently started using that as an example. So you start bringing up tattoos or whatever, or you bring up the verse where it says tattoos are bad, or, whatever. God says, do not do this to your body, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody goes, so my cousin has tattoos all over his body. You're telling me that if he goes that he's not going to be able to make it? And it's like, you're mixing two concepts. You're mixing it thinking that God is like your principal at your school, or he's like the manager at your job. And if you come in there with tattoos, he's going to tell you to go home and put a long sleeve shirt on. And, if you push it too much, you might end up getting fired because you're insubordinate. It's like we take the earthly things and we impose it on God. And it's really more like this. God said, don't have tattoos. Now, I don't know what was first. It's more likely that, because whatever God establishes, the devil just does the opposite. The devil doesn't go down a new path, forge a road, and then God goes, I don't like that. We're not going to do it like he does it. That never happens. There's something already established, and the devil just perverts that, makes it gross, makes it, perverse, something anti-God, and that's where he gets his demonic power from, is from blasphemy and perversions. And that's why it's not just about the blood sacrifice. If the blood sacrifice has to be something gross and mean and wrong and defiled and dirty and, not the right kind of animal to bring. Don't bring him a spotless lamb. Bring him something gross. It's got to be anti what God is about. But everything that exists is established by God first. So, he bring the Bible, read it upside down or backwards, and do the cross upside down. This is all about taking things that God has already made and perverting them. So the tattoo thing is very old. We know it's old. Now, and we also, what people also like to point out is that in the, in Revelation, it's like Jesus has a name tattooed. It doesn't say tattooed, but it says it's written on his thigh, I'm pretty sure, actually. And that he's going to write names on us, on our foreheads. And, he's going to put our new names that no one knows on stones and all of this stuff, right? So they go, well, the Bible, they try to use that to legitimize tattoos. What's more likely happening is that those things already existed in heaven, and the devil has a perverse version of it. He doesn't create anything. I think we can pretty much establish that. It's really funny because you think one day you're going to stumble on something that he created, and it just never happens. He does not create anything. And I mean, honestly, why? That's just, why would you when something already exists? Take something that, he's got all the knowledge of anything that's ever happened. Take something from back in the day that no one recognizes it, put your name on it, and say that it's yours. That's his bag all day. So let's just establish, first of all, that the devil doesn't create anything. Therefore, anything that God is telling you not to do is not out of some distaste for something that exists. This is not your grandma going, yeah, no rap in the house. I don't like that, because she's never come across it and it's weird and she doesn't like it. That's not God's energy. God's energy is, this is a defilement of something that I made. Now, he's not going to give you the fine details of that necessarily. That's why all that has to be discovered through study, typically, because he's just going to tell you not to do it, and you're either going to obey or you're going to not. But the devil is also not going to tell you about the origins of it, or he's going to lie about the origins of it and say, or he's going to omit. He's going to say some truthful things, and he's going to say, hey, it started out of this region with the indigenous peoples that used this as part of their, something real benign and true-ish, just enough for you to be like, well, aren't those Christians just harping on all of the religions of the world because they don't want people to have, it's just a thing for the weddings and, the Day of the Dead and all of this stuff, right? And it's just, it's just cultural heritage, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, no, yeah, he's never going to tell you that the freaking ancient demons that lived there and had free reign because the people of God weren't there or whatever, and they had the people in a chokehold, those people are dead and gone. They can't tell you that they were bound by blood sacrifice and all types of nonsense. So, all you see is these fantastical ruins. You can't see that it used to say, please help us all. The demons are trying to kill us. All that's fell down. All you see is the steps, and it's just majestic. Anyways, so God tells you not to do it because it's not part of his thing, which means it's more than likely a perverted thing or a perverted. So that means that perverted thing has an energy on it that is not, that's going to draw you away from God at the very least. At the most, it's going to attract things that are on the same page as far as, blaspheming God or whatever that thing is that you might not even know that, this cute little charm that you found in the whatever is actually some ancient thing used to defame God's name or whatever. And now that item is charged with a certain type of energy, and it's a God-hating energy. But you like it because it's cute, and you don't believe in none of that stuff. So, okay. So the spirit realm, which is kind of the second realm, the second, the backstory, the B story to this whole place, maybe even the A story to this place. You are carrying around its stuff. I mean, we've seen it in movies a ton of times, right? You don't have to believe in the stuff. You don't have to for it to have power. Um, and that's true of anything, but particularly of the devil, who doesn't have any integrity in the way that he deals with you. God at least says, listen, you have to come with faith. You have to, first believe that God exists and that he rewards those who diligently seek him. He's got all of these rules. He put in a nice book for you, things that never change, that never, go out of style and whatnot, things that change not. That's God's style. The devil's style is sneak it in, don't tell you what it is, and it's your fault for being in the wrong place. If you were in, once you get to a certain place, he's allowed to do those things to you. God tells you, hey, don't go in there, and you go in there. It's not so much like God is punishing you for now going into that place. Once you leave the safe place and you go towards safe, meaning it's safe because that's where God is. That's where light is. So when you go where light is, darkness can't go there. Darkness is just naturally inferior to light. It just is. And it's the same thing with God. God literally is light. And the nature of light and dark are literally the nature of good and evil. I don't know. I did a video of that a long time ago. I might have to do a refresher because it's a pretty freaking amazing thing. So once you leave light, this is a natural process. This isn't vindictive. The light doesn't have something against you. Once you leave light and go to a dark place, a darker place, darkness obviously has more access to you. It can talk to you. It can persuade you. It can get you to do things. So you've got these things that are bad. Ultimately, do they have these long, legitimate explanations? Yes, they all do. But ultimately, just for the sake of time, it's bad because God says it is. He's got no reason to lie to you. He's not on no power trip. It just is what it is. And honestly, I think he just has a way about him that's just he's like a guy that's just when you're on the tour with the tour guide that's taking you around the jungle or whatever. Hold on, I knew I was going to get an interruption. Anyways, sorry. So, when you got the jungle tour guide and he says, don't put your hands outside the boat, you can ask him why. I don't know how patient he's going to be with you. Do you know what I mean? So, when you're on a tour with Indiana Jones, he just wants you to do what he says. I don't know if you've ever been around these guys, these gruff dudes that are just don't have any patience for you asking why. And, most people, they see a guy like that, they just end up, they're like, he knows. I got no reason to, and I don't. So I'm going to just do what he says. But every once in a while, you get some person that's like, well, isn't it like this? He don't even answer back. He's like, oh, okay. He just lets you do whatever. And God is like that times a billion, basically, because, he's God. So, and you're so little and unknowledgeable. So he's just going to keep telling you, don't do that thing. He's going to warn you. And, if you get an answer, if you get an answer of why, God bless you. You better take that because that is gracious. He ain't got to tell you nothing, man. So anyways, so it's bad because God says it is. You go, I disagree. Or maybe you just go, whatever, you dismiss it. Doesn't necessarily have to be a vindictive thing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you overtly just go, okay, I'm going to just go against what God is saying right now. Whatever. The moment you do that, you invite other things. Not only are you inviting other things, but you're removing yourself from God. It's like, as soon as you go towards the thing that God, it's like this. You just go, just like you draw yourself to him, it says, Draw nigh to me and I'll draw nigh to you. Well, the opposite has to be true. Opposite has to be true. So, so yeah, it's not so much that there's these rules and regulations, and if you don't follow them, it's like, listen, there's something spiritual going on out here. And the whole object of everything is to get you away from God. So it's not a big mystery why there's some ungodly thing in your path that looks super, super attractive. And now you're having to make a decision. That's literally going to happen like 1,800 times while you're alive, because it's literally the whole point of the devil being allowed to do what he's doing. And also for God to be able to sift us and refine us and perfect us. Um, so, when people say stuff like, oh, well, a Christian can't have demons, a Christian can't be possessed. Can a Christian be possessed? I don't know. That seems like an oxymoron, but can you have spiritual oppression? Absolutely. Because first of all, you got to learn something. You got to understand something about the nature of demons and anything spiritual. They don't have to follow. They're not following rules like the way that we're following rules. I mean, in the physical realm, you got people who can break the rules of boundaries. How much more can they do it in the spirit realm, especially if they're evil? So, but by and large, they still have to go through God, and they also have to sort of appeal to God to be able to get anything done. Kind of similar to that video where I don't know if you saw the video where I was talking about the guy who had demons, and he asked God to make the demons go away, and God answered and said, "If I do, it'll start a war." They have to go to God to get their permissions, and they are using the legal system. So it behooves them to get you to pick up that joint or do this, immoral thing, or disobey God, or go against what God tells you to do, or sing that song that is, inviting whatever, and put other people under hypnosis so that they, what I'm saying? So it's like, there's all of these myriad ways to get this thing popping off. The devil's like, when can we get this person's soul? How do we get his soul? Well, what is he like? What are we, they're constantly looking for a way. And they start when you basically pop out of the womb. They're really upset that when you're 2 years old, you barely understand what's going on. They really wish that you were cognitive way earlier so they could start doing stuff to you even earlier. That's probably like their only regret, is that they got to listen to you whine and cry for like 18 months. And even that doesn't stop them sometimes. There's some weird stuff going on in the world out here, guys. So, I don't understand how people don't understand how hell is frothing at the mouth to kill you. Like, and that shouldn't be something where you're just debilitated every single day, because they'll use that too. They'll use fear, which is not of God, and they'll just have you in y'all this intrusive thoughts thing. It's getting so insane the way that people are naming these things. Like, because apparently the hysteria around naming things, giving them like super legitimate sounding names to further legitimize that. I mean, I guess people are still falling for that whole thing. So, I mean, it's worked for hundreds of years, I believe. You give something a Latin name. Used to be Latin. Now it's just super, super technical jargon with a little new age bent. And now you've got a legitimate condition. Now it is real. Put it in a book and give it a definition. It's really insane. So listening to people talk about their intrusive thoughts, which is literally just the devil talking to them. Sometimes they're flesh, but mostly it's the devil. Um, it's an amazing thing. But yeah, so I don't know if I explained that well enough, but basically what's happening is not that you're being punished and you better stay away from those things. And I think all the more this is why we shouldn't be judging people. It's not because this is not about, oftentimes we feel like it's our duty to judge in a certain way because we think that what God has told us not to do, um, those things he hates when we do them. And so we have to sort of take up for the way that he wants things done. And it's like, this is not just about, I mean, technically, yes, we're right. You're right. These are the ways that he wants things done. But, it's in the earth. It's in everything. It's not, we don't need to reinforce it with words. It's reinforced in the very spiritual whatever. The more that person continues to do that thing, the more they are going to be drawn away and be under under a curse. I don't know, that may be a little bit harsh, but they're going to be in danger because they are going to be wide open. They're putting targets on their own backs. They are removing themselves from safe situations. They don't know that, but in the spirit, that's what they're doing. They're becoming more isolated. They're, a lone zebra in crossing a crocodile lake, and they don't realize that. But that's not because, and then we also like to go, well, God is just, he's doing these things because he wants what's best for you. And it's like, yeah, that too. But basically, it's bad because he says it is. That he just had to say that it is, and then it is. And then if it's bad, then what happens is the devil hides. He lives in that place. He lives where it's bad because that's what he now loves. Sorry, I did that pretty seamlessly. I don't know if you noticed that, but anyways, so yeah, whatever God says is bad is where the devil is going to go set up his house. So it's not so much that the world is how it is, and then God, because he's wise, he knows how the world is, and so he explains it to us. It's like, no, he created it. He created it. So, it's not a system that's beyond him. Like, whatever he says is good is good. That's why I'm so blown away by, that verse about the fruit of the spirit and how it's, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I think I missed one. I think that's only 8. But the point is, and then it says, against these, there's no law. Dude, that blows my mind. It blows my mind that there could be anything that there are things that can just go on and on and on in perpetuity and just whatever amount you want. Now the world might have an issue with it. You having infinite patience, they might have to come and say something to you. But according to God, he's like, I don't care. It's like the equivalent of your parent just being like, I don't care. Yeah, go out. Well, fine. Stay out till whenever. Come back whenever. Lock the door. Can you imagine God saying that about anything? Like, you can't almost. It just seems like everything's got to go through him. Well, love doesn't. Joy doesn't. Peace doesn't. Patience, kindness, gentleness. Knock yourself out with gentleness. Just be a gentleness whore because it's lawful. There's no law against it. It's blowing my mind. Self-control. So, if there's anything like that becomes somehow becomes bad somehow or malignant, then it's not real patience. It's not real self-control. It's not real goodness. Either that or the people around you are getting bent out of shape because you're so full of God. So, that's hard to tell, but that's just a side note. But what I'm saying is this. I'm saying that, you know, things can happen to you as a believer. Things are already happening to all of us. But in particular, when you become, only because when you become a believer, now you become responsible for more knowledge. Obviously the sinners are out there. They're doing their thing. It's kind of seemed like kind of a Russian roulette situation. It doesn't seem like they're following a certain pattern that's going to guarantee success. A lot of them don't like to worry too much about being too good or too bad. Even though there's technically a verse about that in Ecclesiastes that says, better to not be too righteous or too evil. There's something to be said about that, but basically if you live in ignorance, it's better than being a neurotic person about morality is kind of their thinking. But, a lot of that is, the ignorance being bliss, and how, unless their character is really one way or the other, they just kind of live their lives. And, when you become a Christian, you kind of miss that a little bit, where you could do these things and you didn't, it's like, hey, you're watching that movie, and you're like, so I don't think I can watch this movie anymore. And it kind of sucks because before you were just like numb to it and you just laughed. And now it's like, oh, they blaspheme God. Oh, this is your eyes become open. You become more aware of things. You become, have a higher knowledge of things. So therefore it is, I won't say easier to mess up, but there's more room for intentional mess ups, which can be a lot for some people. It can get a little bit, and then some people just go, I quit. I don't even know. I just don't even know. They just get kind of this moral fatigue, I think. And, that's hard to navigate too. I mean, and there's so many people who are just weird out there that can, exacerbate the situation. But yeah, so all that happens is when you become whatever can cause a situation where you call it being more aware, having more knowledge, whatever can cause you to wander into a place that God has said is bad, whether it's literal witchcraft or rebellion, which is as the sin of witchcraft, or whatever is bad that is not of God. Fear, anger, these things that we think are safe because we haven't heard enough sermons on them. All of these things that are not of God, you become vulnerable because you're in a place where God is not, and God does not have, I won't say that he doesn't have jurisdiction, but it's just like, he's not going to come down to the drug house necessarily and pull you out. Now you can call on his name and all that stuff, but when you're going down a road, and even, there's an indication that he sort of pushes you down the road in a certain way. Just like we were talking about him drawing nigh to you, you draw nigh to him, he draws nigh to you. And the opposite is true. I think not only does that seem like just a law in the earth, I think it's just something that, very similar to what Paul was talking about, where he talks about expel the immoral brother or whatever. It's like give him over to Satan so that his soul can be saved. It's like the quicker we can get you down this road that you think that is so great, and it's like, let's get you in that, put you through that ringer, get you into the butcher shop, and get you out before you die in your sin and have made a permanent decision. It's like, okay, fine, he just cut you loose. Like, he'll warn you, 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 and then he's going to cut you all the way loose. And it's better to be cut loose on this earth and to really see the nature of that thing that you want. Because, of course, it's like, it's like I'm blanking on whatever program or cartoon or movie this is, but it's just like, the devil is showing you some beautiful thing and you go towards it and then you get to it and it's literally like a puppet on a giant dragon, like, tail or something. It's like, yeah, you need to see that the true essence of that thing that you think is, it's going against God, but oh, it's a gray area. I don't know. I'm so divided. It's like, oh no, this is completely evil. This is all the way terrible. This is just to get me away from God, and that's it. And it's just going to tear my soul apart. It's like, the faster you go through it, the faster you can understand and get to that conclusion and go back to God, because he's always right. He knows what he's talking about. And the devil is always himself. And he's not going to turn over a new leaf. And there's no secret side to him that people don't know about. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm almost done. My daughter was like, I was like, give me 10 minutes. She came back in a literal 10 minutes. So I hope I explained that thoroughly enough. And I won't say this other stuff because I was really like, please fit these other things in, but I'll just get to it later. I got plenty of time to make videos, so I'll just leave it at that. And hopefully that came out clear. It's felt clear, so felt really meaty, and I feel like I got my things across, which is like the first time that's ever happened when I was just winging it like that. So, all right, enough rambling, blah, blah, blah. Talk to you later. Bye.